Okay. So now we understand of why it is important to learn optical communication, because it is in every field you see, you will find optical communication, and therefore we are learning this optical communication. Because the first thing that we could see in the video was the major advantage of optical communication. Since we are using the light in a near infrared region, the larger is the frequency, as you know, the larger is the bandwidth. So high bandwidth that we get, which gives us a extremely high data rate. That is why we prefer optical communication, because all of you know the demand for data is increasing exponentially, and optical fiber has a capacity. So ideally, if you talk about, the optical fiber has a capacity of to handle in means infinite data, ideally, but practically we have, as you could see in the slide, the data rates are say 40 Gbps, 100 Gbps, 120 Gbps. Also, you will find the research papers. So 120 Gbps means, you understand now, your one movie is of 1 GB. So per second you have a capacity to download how many movies? 120. Or 40 Gbps, when I say, you are able to download 40 movies of size 1 GB in 1 second. So that is what is the high data rate. When I say it is the in Gbps, that is the data rate that we are able to get using an optical communication system. And it has got a capacity to transmit the signal over a long distance. The reason being, the optical fibers themselves, they are insulator materials. So the absorption of a signal by the fiber is very less. And because, and even I talked about, the fibers were used for communication only after we could find out, or we could design the fibers with low attenuation and absorptions. Along with that, one more thing that I want to tell you is the optical communication. When we say, I have not included that slide. When we say optical communication, it is, if I say attenuation versus your wavelength, right? Instead of frequency, whenever we are talking about optical communication, it is always in terms of frequency. You'll find that this attenuation curve is like this. So around 80, 90 is this first window where we have the attenuation is low. This is the second window of optical communication, which is around 1330, 1330 nanometer. The unit is nanometers. And this third window that you see with the very low attenuation, around 0.2 dB per kilometer, this is around 1 dB per kilometer. This is higher than these two. This is around 1550 nanometers. So these are defined as the three windows which are used for optical signal transmission, and they are the points of minimum attenuation, and therefore this word of less number of, so attenuation is less, so definitely you need lesser number of repeaters, that is to boost the signal is lesser, and that reduces the complexity and the cost of the system. So whenever it comes to optical communication, we will be talking in terms of these wavelengths, or which window is used for. So there are three windows of optical communication: 8 890 nanometers, 1330 nanometers, and 1550 nanometers. This is as per the fiber attenuation characteristics that these points have been defined. You see certain peaks of high absorption. We'll come in details of why these peaks occur, what is the reason for these peaks in the transmission characteristics. Right now, for you to understand is why we say that we need not amplify it. The reason being very low attenuation of the amount of it is being around 0.2 dB per kilometer at 1550. So larger bandwidth, less attenuation, and around this wavelength that we send our signals. Okay, and the with the recent development, initially as we could see in the video, it was said that the copper cables were replaced by optical fibers. So just replacing the copper cables with optical fiber did not help us to increase the bandwidth, but after getting the all optical components, that term was also used in the video about all optical networks. That simply means that whenever you have, suppose this is my network, this is, say, my network that I want to lay down, and these are the nodes where you have the signal amplifications or signal rectification that is taking place. So initially when the copper cables were replaced by the fiber, that was initially the SONET was the first optical network. There, these nodes were actually performing the operation that is OEO. OEO means the signal that was traveling through the fiber was an optical signal. For doing these 3R operation of enhancing the signal quality, this optical signal had to be first converted into electrical. All the required processing on the information was done in the electrical domain, and then again it was converted into an optical and sent further. So this electrical conversion was actually limiting your bandwidth utilization. And now we have come to the point with the research, that is an OOO. That is, at every node, the signal comes as an optical, the processing is taking place in optical domain, and further it is being transmitted in the optical domain to the next node. So there is no conversion that is taking place, and that helps us to utilize the larger bandwidth as compared to the initial system. So the lot of research is taking place which is helping us to more and more utilize the optical bandwidth, which was getting limited because of the electrical components that were being used. Now let's look at an optical communication link. How will it look like? Initially, if I talk about any link, all of us know the first is what? Information source. The second is what? A channel. And the third is what? Is a destination. So you have a channel, okay. So we had channel, the information source, the medium, and destination. That's a simple communication. Now this optical communication, when we are talking about, we are sending the optical the digital information over the optical fiber. So the information could be your voice or a video. The coder, that's a converter of an analog information into a digital signal, that is the pulses that it does, and then that is given to the light source. The light source could be an LED or a laser. It gives the output as when the presence of, that is, suppose the input is say 1011. This is a pulse that has to be sent. So when it is 1, the pulse is high, right? The output will be high. When it is low, there will be no signal being transmitted. When it is 1, again this pulse is being transmitted. So this is how the information is transmitted in an optical source, that is a presence or absence of light. When it is 1, it is presence of light. When it is 0, it is an absence of light. That is how it is decoded. So light on off at a rapid rate depending upon the data rate. Definitely you understand, the higher is the data rate, the frequency at which the pulses are being set is at that rate. Then this is an optical fiber, that is a medium that you have is an optical fiber. Now at the receiver, what do you want to have is this light is to be converted back into an information. So as we have seen in the case of a photo phone, it was back converted because of that device, it was back converted into the sound. So that information is first coming to a detector, that is a device which converts the light into pulses of zeros or an electrical information. So this converts an optical information into a electrical information. That is the first thing that is being done. Then your amplifier, then your shaper, and these pulses come to the decoder to retrieve your information, which could be for your original voice or video. So the system is the same. You have to understand that your source is now a light source. Your destination will have the first component as a detector to convert your light into an electrical signal. Remaining, it is the same. We have already done the similar thing for a satellite. We had the medium was replaced by a free space. Your information source was superimposed on a electromagnetic wave, right? So this is my electromagnetic wave on which these pulses are superimposed, right? Are you getting this point? So this is what is happening here. It's a process of modulation, right? Superimposing your information on your carrier and then inserting it into the cable at the detector. It takes back or retrieves your electrical pulses, and those pulses are decoded back into your voice and a video signal after refinement. Is it clear? Right? Is it clear? Yes or no? Yeah. Yes. Only one person is listening. Others, did you understand? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is a simple fiber optic system, which is which, like any other system, the input is an electromagnetic wave. So very important thing, remember your light is a carrier. Okay. So optical communication is sending your signal over the light using fiber as a medium and detector at the destination to convert these light pulses into an electrical information. So you can transmit voice, video, and data. So this is already done. A to D converters, LED. That's all I had covered. Now let us come to the advantages of optical fiber over other medium of communication. So as I said, the fiber, when did it become commercialized? Only after we could get the fibers with the low attenuation, and where we could define the windows or wavelengths which could be used for the signal transmission. So the first thing is we are able to get transmission with low loss transmission losses that we are able to get. That is the first advantage of an optical fibers. The fiber, as you could see in the video, they were as thin as your hair. One fiber is as thin as your hair, so they are light and less bulky as compared to the copper cable, as well as able to carry a large amount of information, the large bandwidth. That is the most important thing about the optical fibers, and are able to carry more information than the optical fibers. We could see that the optical fibers find its application even in an electrically hazardous environment, high temperature, because fiber is made up of a silicon glass, which is an insulator material, and therefore the other any other material could not be used in those electromagnetic hazardous environment, because there could be a lot of interference of the electromagnetic waves with the signal being transmitted or the commands being transmitted through the optical fiber. But since the fiber is an insulator material, there is an isolation that is there between and which is helping us to keep your signal more secure. So no transmission of the light from an electrical disturbances or electrical noise. It can, yes, it can withstand the environmental conditions such as salt, pollution, and radiation. In the video also it was said that in 1970s the cables were laid down under the sea, right? And those cable we are still using it, right? It's not that they have become redundant. It's only that we are adding to more cables to handle the data that we want to, because although it is there is no corrosion, there is no requirement of changing the cable. The environment, the salt and other pollution, it is not able to affect the characteristics of the fiber, and therefore this can actually, you can say that the maintenance is very low, the cost is very low. Now when I started with why do we want optical communication, one of you said it's more secure. So again, why it is more secure? Since the signal is traveling inside an insulator, so trapping those how do we take the signal? It is through trapping your electromagnetic waves. So that is not possible because it's inside an insulator. It's inside an insulator, and therefore what is happening is your information is more secure until unless the fiber cable is cut and you retrieve that light information, that light signal, you are not able to get it, and therefore it is more secured and more private that this particular system is. Because of the low losses, you have less number of repeaters that are required and low attenuation. Therefore there's a less repeater. As I said, there will be less complexity, less maintenance, and we are using the wavelengths which have got a minimum attenuation, so it can travel over the long distance. um, so, and as you know, with the research, the conversion from optical to electrical at the relay points is not required as compared to initially the optical communication. The losses are less power is required for the transmission. Now, disadvantages are the fiber fabrication process is a little tedious job. We will understand it in chapter 2 as how these optical fibers are made. So that although the raw material that is used for the optical fiber is silicon, that is silica, which is cheap and abundant, but still the process that is involved in fiber fabrication is costlier than that of making a copper cable. In copper cable you could easily make, since it was a metal, making a joint was easy. It's little tedious and an expert's job, you can say, when you are making the joints in an optical fiber. Why it is? Because the light leak, if happens at these points, it could be the point of actually loss of information and the loss of signal. So to avoid that, we need to have an system which is actually making a joints where there are minimum or no losses, because when we make a link and as many joints, number of joints are there, they are the point of the attenuation of the signal. So we need to have a system or expert training for making these joints. These joints are either permanent or they are temporary. Also temporary in a sense that you can remove and then you can make it again. Permanent, that you are actually making um, kind of heat treatment that is used to make the joint, so that there is no breaking of the cable, so that's called as splicing. Or some equipments are used to make those temporary joints with a good quality or no loss of information at these points. These applications, I think you should be telling me. I showed you the whole video as what is the application of optical fibers, where it is used. So it is used for your video, voice and data transmission. And it is not limited to only one application. It can be used um at various points for communicating the information in various electrically hazardous or high temperature environment. There also this cable could optical fiber cables could carry the information right to the point where you want to transmit the information or receive. The sensors could be there which will help to receive the information and from those environments where it is not possible to install any other system. So coaxial cables, I said, told you that past 25 years we are using and it's still there, and only there is an increase in the capacity that is happening. Space application you already saw in it, that is you are getting because it is important to understand that we are communicating in the space inside the your say intersatellite space station, where the communication is taking place from one end to another end. It's through the optical fibers, and that too in a zero gravity condition. So there also it is working efficiently and transmitting the signal. So intersatellite space station uses this optical fibers for the communication. Broadband, all of us are using this. You receive this internet at your homes using the broadbands. Everyone now has that Wi-Fi broadband. Mostly all of us have it for this, and this has now become the need of the hour. This pandemic has made it as an essential part of our life, although it was not so important. Now we feel that it's difficult without it. So we computer system LAN already I have shown you in the video. Automation, industrial automation, security systems, the cameras we could see in our video, that these are the points where we use it. Even medical was not covered, I think, in the video. So medical field also uses these optical fibers, this endoscopy, all that uses this optical fibers for even those cameras and other things for taking the information. Defense services, high security, wherever we have. Now the properties of a fiber, that it does not change with any kind, because it can be laid down. It's already there below the sea. There is lot of pressure and other environmental salt and other chemicals, they are not able to change its characteristics. So this that is why it is helping to keep your information secured, not change your information. One of the example that I would tell you that normally there is no change, but certain fibers are made with such characteristics that to sense the pressure, means they act as a pressure sensors. There is one optical sensors, you will find a lot of research is going on which is used in bridges, right? Where the pressure on the bridge, it keeps on calculating the pressure on the bridge, that is, and whenever, say, with the aging, those pressures or vibrations cross the limit, it creates the alarm. So it is as a part of, you can say, while construction itself, that optical sensors are put up in the pillars of your fiber, sorry, optical fiber pillar, sorry, sensors are put up in the pillars, and as the vibrations and as the stress level changes at various points, when the testing is done by transmitting the light through it, the bending tells us that whether the bridge health of the bridge you can find out using this optical sensors. So they are now all the modern bridges, if you will study, they use this. And now let's come to, I'll just revise this before I go to the basic working principle. So the most important of this uh, portion of my presentation was the simple communication link using an optical fiber. So the information that could be a voice or a video or a data that is first converted, or the analog information that you are putting it, that is first converted into a digital information, and these digital information is superimposed on your light source, that could be an LED or a laser, and from the light source it is fed into an optical fiber, and on reaching the destination, this light is first converted into an electrical signal using the photo detectors or the photo cells. After that, you do the processing of a signal and decode the information electrical pulses to get the original voice or a video signal. The advantages of an optical fiber, as we know, it has got a large bandwidth, low losses, lighter in weight, less bulky. It provides you high security, and it can withstand the environmental condition. Means its characteristics do not change under the soil, because we are still using whatever was laid down in 1960 or 70s. What was laid down under the sea, we are still using those fibers, and we are only adding to our capacity. And it's more secure, and can be used for long distance transmission because of the low attenuation and the wavelengths that we are using. We are able to have minimum number of repeaters and less complexity. Attenuation, the losses, low losses are there as compared to an electrical cable. The disadvantage is that definitely the fiber fabrication process is costlier than the copper, although the raw material is very cheap. And the joints that are to be made um, are the point of losses, and therefore skilled person is required to make those joint, whether you are making a permanent or a temporary joint. Along with that, one more disadvantage is that we are making the fibers with the glass. So if you bend it beyond a certain limit, although they are very flexible, the material has is very flexible, but beyond a certain limit, there are chances of change in the characteristics. Again, we will see this point of change in characteristics of the fiber with the various pressure and other things when we come to your transmission characteristics. An application, it is everywhere. It's for your data transmission, it's for your communication inside your vehicle, communication in the space station in a zero gravity condition. It is for transmitting your voice, video. It's like a backup for your wireless communication. Every communication, the backup is there. The security reasons, defense also uses it. So this is what all I covered in this part. Now let's come to the working principle, or the understanding of how the signal travels. I had already shown you in that experimental video. Now to understand how, I hope that part is clear, right everyone? The previous part is clear to all of you. understanding the advantage, how the signal travels through an optical fiber, and this advantages and uses of optical fiber. Okay. Yes, please reply. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, as I told you that it was through experiments, it was found that when we are transmitting a signal through a medium that's a core, we need a cladding also. So the fiber configuration is, there is a core material, that is, this is a core material with a higher refractive index as compared to the cladding. Cladding is nothing but the coating over the fiber that's of a lower refractive index. When I say low, the difference is only say 1%, 2%. That is what is the difference, because it is also made up of a glass with certain boron and other impurities added to it to change its refractive index. So whenever the light is traveling through it, it comes across an interface of a high refractive index and a low refractive index material. So the whole principle of signal transmission through a fiber is refraction of the light, and the source, when it's feed the light at certain angle, only then the signal is able to travel. All the information or all the light that is being inputted is not able to travel. The reason being for it that those who are not able to satisfy the condition that we have seen. What is that condition for a signal transmission? Yes, tell me. मैंने आपको slides में बताया था. The principle was identified. If I want the signal to travel from the one point to another in a medium or directed guided medium, what was that principle? Less attenuation? No. प्रिंसिपल का नाम कुछ और था. मैंने जब हिस्ट्री बताई थी तो आपको बताया था. ये प्रिंसिपल आइडेंटिफाई जॉन टाइडल ने यस, टोटल इंटरनल रिफ्लेक्शन. वेरी गुड रिया. So total internal reflection, whatever rays are able to experience the total internal reflection, only that travel through your cable. So this is how your actually the optical fiber looks like. This is a fiber. This is a core. And through this core, your signal is traveling like this. That is at the point of core cladding interface. There is a complete bending of the signal inside the same medium, and that is able to travel. So only the rays which are able to experience this total internal reflection will be reaching the destination. The rest will be radiated, or you can say rest will be lost out of the medium, or will be resulting in signal loss. Okay. So now let us understand how does this low total internal reflection occurs, and understand what is the condition when the ray will experience total internal reflection, so that we understand or make our system such that maximum rays that I input are reaching my destination, because any ray which does not do this is getting lost. So our point is, the next part is to understand. Now let's start with this particular diagram. So what do you see is there are two mediums. So first we are looking it into a case when we have one glass material, and over that the other glass material is kept where N1 is greater than N2. This material is N1 is greater than N2. Okay. Now tell me, when a ray comes from a denser medium to the rarer medium, right? This is for us. You can all, everyone knows that we have learnt in class 12 physics. When a ray moves from a denser medium to the rarer medium, it moves away from the normal. Yes or no? Agree with this? Yes. So what happens is, you have a ray incident at say theta 1. The ray gets refracted at an angle theta 2, where theta 2 will be greater than theta 1, right? Your ray is moving away from the normal. Now if I increase my angle of incidence, मैंने अभी ये theta 1 को, suppose it was 15 initially, I make it 30. I increase my angle of incidence, my angle of refraction will further increase. As you can see in this particular B diagram, I have increased my angle of incidence. I have increased my angle of incidence. My angle of refraction is further increasing. This is a typical case where your angle of incidence of at or angle of refraction is 90 degrees, right? This is called, this angle of incidence at which your angle of refraction is 90 degree is called as critical angle. This theta 1, when your angle of refraction is theta 2, which is equal to 90, it is equivalent to, is called as critical angle. Yeah. Is it visible? Right. Okay. Now, after this angle of theta, after this angle of, when this angle of incidence is equal to the critical angle, that is theta c, we call it as, theta c. Your angle of refraction is 90. After this point, if I further increase my angle of incidence, as you can see, this theta angle of incidence is increased, or this is greater than your critical angle, that is the angle when the refraction was 90, your ray experiences a bend inside that medium only. So this is called as your total internal reflection. Okay, right? Now, how do we calculate this angle theta c? Can we do the calculation for angle theta c? Okay, so if I go to my previous slide, all of you remember Snell's law? When between the relation between angle of incidence and angle of refraction when the ray is moving from one medium to the other, that is n1 sine theta 1 is equal to n1 sine n2 sine theta 2. Now let's apply this to our diagram number C, that is n1 sine theta 1 is equal to n2, sorry, to diagram number 2, right? N2 sine, sorry, n1 sine theta 1 is equal to n2 sine theta 2. Is it visible? What I'm writing, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So this, in this case, second diagram, what is your theta 2? Theta 2 is 90, right? Everyone, you agree? So, and your theta 1 is, what did I say? Theta 1 is equal to critical angle, that is theta c. So I can rewrite this equation as n1 sine theta c is equal to n2 sine of 90. What is n2 sine of 90? Sine of 90 is how much? 1, right? So I can directly write it as into sine 90, which is 1. So I can write sine theta c is equal to n2 by n1, or theta c is equal to sine inverse of n2 by n1. Is it clear? Yes. Yes. So this derivation is important, finding the critical angle theta c. So normally what this is the first thing that you have to do when you are finding whether a ray will be able to travel to the destination or not. So for that, the first thing is what should be the critical angle, that is angle of incidence. Any ray with an angle of incidence greater than theta c, that is sine inverse of n2 by n1, will experience total internal reflection, right? This is your boundary condition, you can say, or limiting condition, which is telling that when will your ray reach the destination. Is it okay? Yes or no? Yes. So yeah, okay. So what I'll do is quickly, since it's 56. Yeah. So now this I just don't want to rub it. So this is a case of a core, and if air, anything is there. So I think it has used the wrong terminology or replaced it. So this is a case when you have a reflection and a refraction, when your angle of incidence is smaller than the critical angle, and once it becomes equal to critical angle, it's at 90, and once it is greater than the critical angle, you experience a total internal reflection and no refraction. Okay, now I'll not take this part. So let's come quickly revise what we did in this part of our slide. Was the optical fiber has two parts. One is a core and the other is a cladding. So core has a higher refractive index and the cladding has a lower refractive index. And when the ray travels through it and experiences total internal reflection, it is able to reach the destination. What is my light source? The light source are LED and lasers, as I told you. So all the output of a light source which satisfy our critical condition will only reach the destination. So our now first target is to find out what is the critical condition, so that we understand how should we input our light into the fiber so that it reaches the destination. So for that, I started with this diagram where I have two medium, N1 and N2. N1 is angle of incidence and N2, theta 1 is angle of incidence and theta 2 is angle of refraction. So we all know that when a ray travels from the denser medium to the rarer medium, it moves away from the normal. So if I keep on increasing my angle of incidence, my angle of refraction will keep on increasing. So as I increase, there will be a point that for a particular angle of incidence, the angle of refraction is 90. That's called as a critical condition, or that angle of incidence is called as critical angle, represented as theta c. Now, if I further increase my angle of incidence beyond theta c, my ray will not go out or get refracted, but instead it will be experiencing a total internal reflection, that is with angle of incidence and total internal reflection. This two angles will be the same. Both the angles are same, theta 1 and theta 2 in this case. That is when your theta 1, which is greater than the critical angle theta c. Then we did a derivation for what is the value of theta c using the Snell's law, which says that when a ray is traveling from one medium to the other, there is a bending of the ray and it follows the law n1 sine theta 1, that is angle of incidence theta 1 is equal to n2 sine of theta r, where angle of refraction. So using that, for this particular case, we could find out the critical angle, because at this point your theta 2 angle of refraction is 90. So sine theta 2 is 1. And we could find out sine theta c is n2 by n1, or theta c is sine inverse of n2 by n1. So this is important derivation, and numericals can be asked. We will take those numericals in the next class. Is it clear this much, everyone? Yes? Any doubts in what all we covered till now? If you have any doubt, you can unmute yourself and ask. This is clear to all of you? Yes? So should we stop?